The Li-Ning Ji-Ying 3 is a pretty impressive football boot for a brand that pretty much no one outside of China or Asia really knows about. And in today's video, we're actually going to do an update to a takedown model of the brand new Turf edition. So let's hop into the unboxing. You get a very typical Li-Ning box here with the brand logo there. Anything is possible, always forward or constantly moving forward or something like that is their other sort of, how would you say, their tagline. And then if we go over here, we've got the little colorway there. These are a 9.5 US per sizing for all of their football boots. These are a turf ground football boot as well. And we are gonna jump straight into the unboxing. Now this is thanks to Hongbo on Instagram. He's a viewer of the channel who has sent me a couple different pairs of boots, and there you go. So these are actually a takedown Turf model. So I'll explain some of the differences in the top end versus the Turf model as well. But what do you guys think? I think this is a pretty sleek looking colorway for sure, and a very aggressive Turf traction. You would expect that, I suppose, from a Turf model, but also a speed boot model that comes in the high cut, which I'm very interested in as well. So there's that one. And here we go. So this is the Li-Ning Ji-Ying 3 in Turf. These, of course, come in a high cut as compared to the firm ground models, which all come in a low cut variation as well. I'll take some of this foam and stuff out so I can show you guys kind of the softness of this upper. Now, compared to the top end model, this has changed quite a bit from the previous generation. So this is the Ji-Ying 2. This is the Ji-Ying 3. Both models have a really impressive amount of tech. This, of course, does not have some of the aspects of the top-end Ji-Ying 3 that exists in China. This is a knit and mesh-based synthetic upper that's actually quite soft. I gotta be honest with you guys, this is pretty impressive how soft this is for a takedown model. And then you have a much lower quality knit material here around the lacing system and around the ankle. I don't imagine this ankle area is going to feel all that amazing compared to, say, the top end model. As you can see, look at the difference in the sort of the volume of the top end versus the takedown models. I'd imagine that the top end model of the new edition is much closer to this, so a much tighter, that's going to grip and wrap your ankle much better as well. And then here on the studs, they've updated from an all conical to a more aggressive chevron type rubber stud pattern with quite a bit of robustness to it. You can see it's a bit thicker, and it does have quite a bit of kind of underfoot cushioning to it, which is really nice. You do get some of their foam material here in the heel area, which is nice. That comes from the previous generation, as well as the MG/AG models that get this foam here in the heel area, so that when you strike or when you're braking or slowing down, you're going to get a nice amount of cushioning there through the heel area. And then this is a nylon plate that exists in the forefoot, as opposed to a carbon plate, which you'll get on the top end model. So still flexible, not as snappy. As you can see, it's definitely a little bit bendy, but in the midfoot, you do get a decent amount of flex. To be honest, I'm not all that concerned with a takedown model having the crazy tech, because that's not what it's meant for. It's meant to be a boot that does the job really well at an affordable price. And from a pricing perspective, unfortunately, I can't tell you how much these are because I don't know off the top of my head, but I will try to put them on screen if I can find that pricing for you guys. That's even if you can buy these, because as far as I know, these are they're China market only, potentially selling in parts of Indonesia as well. I'm not sure, but I think these are just in China. So you can maybe export them using certain websites, but this is a boot that I'm able to review because of viewers like you guys. So again, thank you to Hongbo for sorting this out for me. But honestly, these look pretty decent for a turf model, especially a takedown. So you imagine, let's say this is the top end that has all the crazy tech in it. Obviously, this is last generation, but it's this one, the top end model with the carbon and the crazy heel padding, which the FG model doesn't get. And then you have a takedown model that does maybe 80% or 75% of the same stuff with an upper that's still really grippy and really nice. that's a pretty good deal in my opinion. And I do think that if brands, this is something that I actually wanted to talk about in this video, is if brands were to take, American brands or European brands were to take the Chinese brands sort of lead on this and go, hey, we're going to create the same upper, the same midfoot tech, and the same midsole tech, so the carbon plating and the rear foot cushioning that you got on the top end models, and we're just going to add different sole plates to it. So you'll still get the top end, say they did this with the GX2, right? What if they did a GX2 in firm ground and in AG, which we have the top end AG and FG models. What if they did the top end turf model as well? So you get just a turf with a little bit of extra padding and cushioning in there, but you still get grip knit. You still get all the best features of that GX upper. That's why I love brands like Li-Ning who are coming out and with boots like this, where it's like you can get the really top end stuff, or you can just pay less for a turf model that's going to do, again, 75-80% of the same stuff, but at a really affordable price in comparison. So that's pretty cool. But I am really excited to see what these feel like. I'm also interested to see the change in the sole stud pattern, I guess, from the rubber conical studs to the rubber chevron studs. So without further ado, let's hop into the backyard and I'll show you guys what those are all about. All right, guys, out in the backyard here with the Ji-Ying 3 in turf. This is, of course, the takedown model. So let's get these on feet straight away. They do have quite a soft upper and a pretty neutral and general shape. As you can see, there's not a whole lot going on there as far as little divots and shape concerns. So I'd imagine my feet are gonna pop. Oh yeah. Oh, very nice. Okay, cool. So sizing fits very similarly, not very much room on the tip of the toe, which is great, but these are very accommodating. I gotta be honest. The upper seems to wrap the foot really, really well. Lots of room for adjustment with this lacing system as well, having a little bit more width through this lacing system area and having the ability to adjust with the knit material there, but super comfortable straight out of the box. Wow, that's pretty impressive. Love that. They're, depending on what you like for indoor boots or turf boots, you're gonna be able to pick which one out of this or kind of the higher end model. The higher end model has, assuming it's the exact same upper as the low cut model, is going to have a bit more structure to the upper, more premium and more snug knit material. And then you're also going to have a little bit more tech with responsiveness in the sole plate with that carbon shank and some of the other features that top end boot has. Whereas this one has more of a very flexible and kind of a little bit more like barefoot feeling, I guess, if you will. It's a lot more flexible, less rigid, less quality upper, but not to say that it isn't very comfortable straight out of the box as well. I'm obviously not a huge fan of high cut boots, but these don't feel that crazy. I do get annoyed sometimes if boots like this have really floppy uppers, which this kind of has. That's also because it's a takedown model, so the premium knit isn't in this boot as it is in the more premium one. So this is a full look at what they are. They feel pretty good, to be honest. I'm not really much to complain about. The upper does feel a little papery, like it feels a little cheap in some respects. But again, as a takedown model, this is actually quite good. This is much better than a lot of other takedown models. And as I discussed in the studio, I do like that Li-Ning went for a top end and a mid cut turf model where they have a very similar design and stuff, but they don't necessarily have all the tech if you don't want all the carbon and that stuff. So if you're looking for something that's going to be a little bit more, I guess barefoot is the way to say it, so it's less structured, and so you get a lot more kind of personal movements with your feet underfoot. Like it's definitely not as springy, but for some people you may want that. You may want something that doesn't feel all that responsive, but it feels very, you know, when you're manipulating the ball, you're doing all sorts of like little techie stuff. It feels very barefoot. Now, touch on the ball with these feels very, very thin. That's one thing that I think this upper does really well, both in this iteration and the top end iteration, is it's like a speed flow kind of upper where it's very, very thin, or Puma Ultra 1.1, 1.2. super, super thin, very, very barefoot, lots of room to kind of manipulate the ball and feel really natural on feet, and that's something that I really like as well. Now, I probably won't play test these simply because it's a turf boot, and I am not a huge expert on turf boots. Yes, I know enough to have a conversation, but I really don't feel like I'm able to test them in a way that's meaningful to anybody because I don't play indoor at any sort of level at all. I don't really wear turf boots all that often. I'd rather wear an AG model or even an FG on like a turf or an AG surface. But honestly, these feel really good. And if you can get your hands on a pair and the price is right for you, I do think this would be a very compelling package compared to something like a Vapor or a Superfly turf model, simply because the price is probably a lot better. And from a narrow, thinness perspective and a fit and comfort perspective, these are pretty fantastic. The other thing that I'm noticing is that heel, right? So that heel area is very snug. It feels really good and natural, especially with takedown high cut models. That's one thing that I've heard, Josh actually from SR4U, he talked about this in a couple videos a while ago about how takedown high cut models are a really bad option and takedown laceless models are a really bad option. And I would very much agree with that statement because I do think that there's often a disconnect between the cheaper knit material and cheaper plastic that you make some of the takedown models with and the construction of the heel area, and so it just gets really messy and really gross. This is not the case with these, I got to admit. For a takedown model, the fit and the overall sensation, if you were to tell me, hey, this is a Li-Ning boot and this is a top-end football boot, I'd be like, yeah, okay, like they need some improvement, maybe some more quality knit and maybe a little bit more robustness to the upper, but generally speaking, these feel very top end for what's technically a takedown, which is really impressive. And I like that Li-Ning has taken the care to make a mid-cut model that isn't, or a mid-tier model that isn't just total bullshit. Because I think a lot of brands sort of, it's going to be resold at Kmart or it's going to be resold at like TJ Maxx or something. It's like, yeah, but there are people who really want to buy takedown models, whether it's because of a financial reason or because it's what fits them the best. Like at the end of the day, my philosophy is buy what fits you the best, regardless of what the marketing is. And if this is a pair of football boots that a brand really took care with producing, sure, maybe the materials aren't like top notch like their top end boots are, but these are phenomenally comfortable for a takedown model. This is one of the better takedown models I've ever had on my feet, which is pretty cool because I've had, yes, a few. I've tried on a bunch in store. Obviously, I haven't reviewed a whole lot because I just don't have the time to with all the top end models. Because these were sent to me by a mate of mine, I wanted to make content on it, and here we are. So very impressed with these. If you can pick them up, whether you go visit China or whether you live there or you live in the Asian markets where you can find them really readily, easily, I would probably recommend you try these if you're on the market for a turf football boot that's mid-cut and you're on a budget. I think these are a great, great option, and I'm very impressed with how they feel overall underfoot, but also just the general shape and fit of the upper with how barefoot it feels on ball. So that's gonna wrap up today's video of the Turf Edition takedown of the Li-Ning Ji-Ying 3. Hope you guys enjoyed that video of something a little bit different, and if you wanna see some more interesting and unique football boots, let me know down in the comment section below what you guys wanna see next. As always, be awesome, take care. I'll see you guys in the next video.